Hello, hello. Yeah, okay, it's been a while. It's been a pretty stressful few weeks. I wrapped up a paper, kind of. God, what is this in my water? Okay. And now, okay, let me just. Yeah, okay. What am I talking about? Okay, so yeah, now I want to read a couple of papers to quickly get familiarized with a few of the things I needed for my last piece of work. So this has to do with an extension of the first project that I did on constrained methodology. Manifold sampling methodologies. And this time we are interested in the neural network. So here, the readings I'm doing now is by this author, Levent Sagun. He has written quite a few papers on kind of this similar subject. So I'm gonna quickly go through them and hopefully learn something. These are quite short papers, so I hope that I can understand, because sometimes short paper just means that there's a lot of details that are implicitly assume that the readers know these things, and maybe I don't. Okay, so let's go. Okay, the goal of it is to basically understand quite well why the neural network would be difficult to sample for a statistical sampler. It mainly has to do with the fact that it is quite ill conditioned, and we can know that usually by studying the Hessian. We take the Hessian evaluated probably at the maximum a posteriori point, and then we look at the eigenvalues, and then we see that the eigenvalues should have very drastically different scales, the giving large condition numbers. So that's typically a nightmare for numerical algorithms. So yeah, okay, let's keep it quick. All right. Yeah. So this particular first one might not be super related, but I figured it's actually. The next two would be eigenvalues of Hessian and then the empirical analysis of Hessian. So that would be directly, on the nose, but this is quite relevant as well, of course. Mm-hmm. Stochastic gradients might end up in critical points other than local minima. Okay. Number of critical points of a given index at a given level. Okay, I'm not particularly concerned about spin glass models. Yeah. So this seems quite specific to. Wait, hold on. Let me just. uh, Not. I don't really know what this part means. Let's move on first. This is just high dimensional, right? Yeah. Okay, this one may not be as relevant as I imagined, but okay. Change the system so the flows at different morphine. Okay. Where does the particle end up, and how good is that point for the task at hand? What do various descent algorithms do differently? Okay, then we have a deep network model. Difference in graph connectivities indicate two systems more not mathematically analogous. Yeah. We propose that they are special cases of a more general phenomenon which is not yet discovered. Wow, I think this is so cool as to write as an author. Like you I guess this paper must. I mean, this paper is a great paper, by the way. I mean, just from the citation counts, I think. But to write this in a paper to say that this is something that we do not know yet, you know, I think I don't know. I think it's quite a cool thing to write, because I mean, it might look like, oh, then what are you doing here? But clearly there's still enough meat in the work to make it important. The authors have to extract further knowledge. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, I'm just blabbering. Yeah, so this is spherical glass. I mean, spin glass model. I'm not sure if I necessarily worry about this. Wait, what is? Hold on. Nor the simplest model for magnetic material is one atom, two spins up and down, considering pairwise interaction. Another two-body interaction between the neighbors gives a total energy. Uh, uh, ignores the lattice geometry and assumes ordinary have equal strength. Introducing a weak external field leads to all particles to favor alignment, which incidentally corresponds to minimum energy configuration. Spin up or down. This is rather simple landscape whose global minimum is easy to achieve. This assumes no frustration, that is, all particles favor alignment. This model is necessary Curie-wise. If you have an alloy, which some disalignment, this introduces a whole new set of constraints from simultaneously into glassy states. One way to model this is to introduce random coefficients. Rather complex. Sherrington Kirkpatrick. Okay. I mean, I'm not familiar with this, by the way, but so this the energy level that kind of fast and reverse time plus slower. Corresponds to the smallest energy of the highest value function. Equation 1. Have we seen equation 1? Not yet. Negative E infinity. You also disregard the discrete states. And put the points on the sphere and consider three body interactions of n particles. Taking a point in the sphere in this, I guess this is the radius. Is it? I don't know. The sphere, yeah, the hypersphere of dimension n minus 1 embedded in n. I guess this might be the radius, I don't know. And x, the Hamiltonian standard norm interaction. We have arrived at the point. Okay. Once the random coefficient are chosen, the landscape will be explored. That will be fixed. Also know that there's a continuous function complex. Okay. Rule loss. Wait. Probability measure mu on Rn centralized that that represent data as in a function g from Rn to n that correctly labels data. True loss then measures how well a given function, say g w, approximates g. Okay, and the distance across x. Okay. Okay, so this is just loss for an integer id Define empirical loss. Okay, can be anything. Mean square hinge cross entropy. By the law of large numbers, we have the loss is gonna go to the expectation of mu of L in XW. Yes. Oh, that's just, yeah, law of large numbers, which is the same as the true loss in some sense. But what is the, hold on, am I tripping? What is D? D. Did I miss something previously? I don't think. Maybe it's just, maybe I'm just not catching on fast enough with the notation. Because this is the, there's some distance, but true loss. Okay. I mean, I don't know what this D is though. Okay, so you approach this as you have more and more data. The limit hold pointwise so that the sampled loss approximates while true loss as number increases. Central limit theorem holds that the the difference as a random variable is going to be approximately normal distribution with blah blah blah. Hello. Thank you. So the fluctuations of this approximates is pointwise Gaussian. Okay. Real life problem true loss is not accessible, so if L train approximate DW. So it's just some type of true loss. The current blah 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 blah. If there's enough data, natural pressure, how low, how close. If we sample from the floor of training surfaces, do they necessarily correspond to the floor of the test surfaces? I mean, obviously not, but I guess when you have a lot of data, it doesn't matter. How does smaller scale fluctuate affect learning when trying the process? The exponent in 2. What's 2? Yeah. Summation experiment. Existence of critical dimension before which the landscape is hectic and does not really show any sign of a well-defined value that algorithms converge. This implies that in low dimensions the surface is not trivial and that there are traps at high energy levels, and those traps are located somewhere at somewhat arbitrary values as seen in figure 2. On the other hand, the high dimensional picture is drastically different. The landscape is trivial in the following sense: starting from random point and falling gradient descent almost leads to a very narrow band of values. Moreover, in the second part, we show that this descent is irrespective of which algorithm is being used. Okay. Simulations on spin glass model has a clearly qualitative. Wait. In the first part. Flaw for high dimensional systems. Okay, maybe I'll come back to this because I'm not sure how this can be completely irrelevant just yet. So we get SGD test string. Okay, let's go on. This paper, Yan LeCun. I'm guessing Sagun is a student of Yan LeCun, right? Makes sense. And I guess, yeah. Look at eigenvalues of the Hessian over loss before and after training. The eigenvalue distribution seems to compose of two parts: bulk centered around, concentrated around 0, and the edges we just get away from 0. Edges, the bulk. We present empirical evidence for the bulk, indicating how over-parameterized the system is, and for the edges that depend on the input data. Okay, this last bit is a bit confusing, but we'll find out. Given a piecewise differential, yes. Has an in-depth review of some of the proposals for approximating Hessian of the loss function. Approximating the Hessian of the loss function. That's good. I mean, guess I'll just copy. Oh, so okay, so like okay, like LBFGSN. Wait, what about Hessian? Hmm. Okay, we go back to that later. Nevertheless, because I figured in this work it might be important for me to get a very good approximation of the Hessian so that I can argue using it. But okay, we'll see. I mean, we know it's a hard thing to do, or rather, it could be super expensive. But nevertheless, given the computational complexity, it's hard to acquire information on what the actual Hessian looks like. This is a part of intuition. We also know that singularity of fission has been explored. Yes. Saddle points, they locate saddle points that are near the training path. In this way, however, we strictly focus on the Hessian of the loss function at the exact point of the training. We train the main examples using gradient descent. We perform our calculations of Hessian using the implementation of the exact Hessian vector product that has been introduced in ProMata. I don't know what that is. Exact Hessian vector product. We fine-tuned. Okay, maybe I should. Come on. Okay, we come back to this. One where we find here eigenvalues. What's a discrete set of eigenvalues? In this short note, we show how the data. We show how the data and the architecture depends on the eigenvalues of the Hessian. Wait, what? Isn't it the other way around? Oh, okay, whatever. The top discrete eigenvalues depend on the data, and the bulk depend on architecture. What? As they keep growing, they observe that the discrete part remains and the concentration near around sharpens. What? Dude, this is insane. I've never heard of such a thing. There are various conclusions and implications of this singularity. We recently suggested new inside convergence property into non-convex systems. The result come together with the implications on neural networks. However, proofs require to be the system to be non-degenerate is that Hessian alone is very singular. Therefore, a lot of the blah 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 does not work. Yeah. Yeah, non-singular Hessians. Okay, we calculate the exact Hessian of loss function with two hidden layers. The inputs are 1000 randomly selected examples of 28 by 28 in this data. The network has one hidden layer with value. I thought is that two hidden layers? The network has one hidden layer with value non-linearity. Top layer has a softmax and a negative function at the end. Okay, I don't know if it's two or one layer like this. The top layer has a softmax and a negative loss function at the end. Okay, we train the system with gradient descent. Wait, but how big is this layer? We don't know, right? Okay, it depends. We train the system with gradient descent with mini batch size equal to the number of examples. So full batch, right? With mini batch size equal to the number of examples. We use what? I don't understand. The inputs are, does this mean that we are not using the full MNIST data, or does this mean that we are always using, but then at every pass we only do 1000? I don't know. But okay, not so important, I suppose. We plot a histogram of, because if you just randomly choose 1000, I don't know, you might be unfortunate to end up with very imbalanced data somehow. But I don't know. Okay, I don't know if I'm making any sense. It depends, I guess. We plot a histogram of the eigenvalues of the Hessian for varying number of hidden units after convergence. Okay. The Hessian at the end of the training turns out to be extremely singular and increase. That means, what does this mean? The Hessian turns out to be very singular. It means that when we are at the map estimate, that means essentially when we are at the minimum energy or some local minima of it, it is very ill conditioned. The surface. I guess. I mean, okay. And increasing number of hidden units. Ooh, only adds to the singularity. Huh. The effect of that's interesting. Okay, the effect of training on the eigenvalue spectrum of the model with 10 hidden units is visible when comparing figure 1 and 2 left. Okay, left full Hessian matrix for a 782-210 system after convergence. 2? Oh, I see. Wait. The Hessian. I'm still a bit confused, but what do they mean here by the Hessian? Because with respect to what? Oh no, to everything. So this is gonna be like something like close to 1.6k, 1.5k. So this is the, okay, so with respect to all the weights and biases. Yes. You have this part that is a little bit high, and then you have this diagonal bit that is almost 0. This is a horrible scale, by the way. Like, looking at this picture, I can't see shit. Like, why? Okay, doesn't matter. Eigenvalue profile for increasing bigger networks. I did this experiment actually similar to this, and I noticed the dependence of, okay, it doesn't matter. For k hidden networks, there are, for k hidden networks, what? 784 plus 1 times k, or k hidden nodes. Dude, is this paper the most updated one? Maybe I should look for the more updated version. Feels a little bit, feels like there are some mistakes. Yeah, but this is cited by 88 people. It should be good enough. And I think this is the one that I'm reading. Oh, no, this is great. The bulk of eigenvalue depend on architecture, while top depends on the data. So, the property of Hessian provide useful information about landscape. Yes. Deeper discussion would be nicer. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Okay, I mean, this is so far so mysterious, quite mystical. Uh, yeah, so okay, so we have all these. Yeah, so this is the number of weights and biases. Wait, I can't see anything. These pictures are funny. I can't see anything. So when we have more hidden units, it is more concentrated at 0. Why is that? When we have more hidden units, I don't know why. Varying. To demonstrate how the eigenvalue distribution may depend on data itself, we keep the same architecture and change their input patterns, inputs to random patterns. Initially, a random point in weight space is selected and we calculate the Hessian without any training. First two histogram of figure 2. Okay. Initially, a random point in weight space is selected. So, okay. A random point. What do you mean by random point? Like you random how? After training the system until the norm of the gradient is close to 0, we again calculate the exact Hessian and plot, which can be seen at the last figure. Varying the data. To demonstrate, depend on the data itself. I'm confused because if you want to check how it depends on the data, wouldn't you change the data? Why would you change? I'm confused. We keep the same architecture and change the inputs. Inputs meaning, yeah. Ah, okay. Yes, yes. So it does not seem to be. I mean, comparing random input with the eminence data, the value profiles are very different, as well as the final profile. We repeat the same experiment in two-dimensional data in an attempt to understand better the connection between the data and the spectrum of the Hessian. A simple figure can be seen in figure 3. We create 2 Gaussian blobs. Hey, that's very similar to what I did. Keep the standard deviation, increase the network size. The network architecture is similar. This time with two hidden layers and a fully connected network with ReLU non-linearities including softmax, blah blah blah. We train the system. Ah wait, so this is just negative log likelihood. There's no regularization, am I right? This matters, right? This totally matters, right? Because if you don't have regularization, then you allow for very large weights. I mean, which is fine, but wouldn't that cause numerical issues or something like that eventually, or make things hard at some point? Just the fact that you have such different scales could be problematic. Don't know. Okay, we train the system with gradient descent with constant step size. At the end of training, the norm is on the order for. So okay, so more or less minima in a way. Increasing network size. Loss. So we increase the network size. What am I trying to understand here? I don't understand actually. it shows that there's more zeros. Is that what it is? I don't quite follow. What? What? Oh, wait, sorry, I don't understand. You have 0 and then you have the rest. Yes. And then the rest. But you get some of what? Some of these are negative? And how is this? Wait, hold on. Okay. There are 2 eigenvalues that are isolated and away from the bulk of the spectrum. Oh, okay, so these things. Increasing the network only adds to the concentration around 0. To give an insight, figure 6, we plot full Hessian matrices for 3 of the system above after training. So this is after training, I guess. Yeah. Moreover, this property of the singular and discrete parts is not specific to the log loss. We plot. Ooh, this is interesting because we plot the histogram for a system that is trained on the same data set as figure 3. What's data in figure 3? Oh. And the same architecture, but the training is carried out with mean squared loss rather than negative log likelihood loss. Mean squared loss. Wait, but what do you mean mean squared loss? Because this is hold on. Is it mean squared loss? Oh, you could do mean squared loss, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you want to. No one's stopping you, I guess. Yeah, it's not convex or binary classification. Right. Yeah, I mean, you could. Yeah. Hmm. Ooh. Hmm. I mean, these plots I don't find particularly helpful sometimes because, I mean, yeah, it looks definitely more concentrated around 0, but maybe there's some type of because I mean, there's some type of scaling with respect to the number of parameters, right? And it could be just a visualization issue that we can't see it very well. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Oh, this figure 7 is gonna be cool. Oh. Yo, what is this visualization, by the way? This is so crazy. What am I looking at? Okay, so you go do. Oh, that's actually quite cool. This is a very interesting observation. The training itself acts like a process. Yeah. All of the training has been done with random initializations on the weight space with the same standard deviation. All initial points are chosen on the surface of a sphere with a fixed radius given the total number of parameters. So you are drawing from a sphere. I wonder, is this important? This begs the question of the effect of the choice. Yeah. Therefore, now we fix the network size and repeat the experiment with different random initializations. We plot. We fix the network size and repeat the experiment with random initializations over 5k times. We plot the fluctuations on the top of the top eigenvalue. seems more or less the same. I mean, it could, yeah. I mean, seems pretty. Seems pretty good. The next question is how the spectrum responds to increased complexity of data. Yes, actually, this whole paper, I did experiments very similar to this to try to understand what is happening. The notion, yeah, trying to complexify make the data complex, make it do, non-linear, linear, separable, non-separable, multiple classes, distance, out of distribution, all that kind of stuff. The notion of complexity for a given data set can be tricky. Here we use a loose notion of more complex, the less separable one. Yeah, you see, this is interesting because I used this definition as well, and it didn't work for me for what I wanted to do. I thought less separable means, in some sense, things are more crazy, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So you increase the standard deviation. So this is also a problem because when you increase the standard deviation, you are saying that you are going to have different types of loss values because now you have very small and very large losses. It's not the same as putting everything together. Now you're dispersing it, so it's a little bit different. Yeah, but error is higher, and it can't learn how to separate them perfectly. Yes. Yeah, the error is higher because, well, you have things further away. We observe that the two top eigenvalue grow significantly and beyond its natural fluctuation due to this. We also know that the norm of the weights are similar. Therefore, the growth in size cannot solely be accounted for the growth in weights. We also note that the norm of the weights are similar for all cases. Therefore, the growth in sizes cannot be accounted for the growth. Wait, cannot solely be accounted for the growth. Therefore, the growth in the sizes of aggregate cannot solely be accounted for by the growth in weights, I guess. That's what it means. Where is figure 9? It's figure 9. Yes, so they are less separable, then you're more. Wait, what about this? 0.3, 0.2, 0.6. Their means are kept at. Okay, basically, if we have very clear ways of driving up the ill conditioners, then we have a very clear way of introducing the method that we use. But I'm not sure if that's. We show that the Hessian is degenerate. This has implications on theoretical work. Wait. Hessian is degenerate. This is a problem. The isolated singularity was assumed. Okay, I need to test this out to see for myself if it's true, because if it is, then I think it's a good thing. But basically, the main takeaway is that the top discrete depends on the data, and then the bulk depends on the architecture. This is interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I have to test it out for myself because at the end of the day, what matters is that it actually translates to something that I can use. And there's so many things as well, like the data part we still don't really know. Right now, he uses a notion of separability, uh, which is not the same as, I don't know, it's not the same as if you just put things together. Um, it could be just the scaling of things. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's actually quite fuzzy here to me. But okay, but this is interesting. When we grow the size, then we actually discrete part. So it could mean that, so for large networks, we expect something like this. And then this is just one layer, right? I mean, we could have more layers. Okay, I think yeah, I have to test it out myself. Let me write some things down. Okay. Lastly, okay, well, they compute the full Hessian. I'm just gonna compute the full Hessian. I mean, and okay, no, I need to worry about because we need the Hessian. What the method to? Let me just check real quick. Because when we have wait, don't we have oh, it's been a while. Where is it? Yes. Uh wait. Uh no, that's symptotically exact. Yes, I thought this paper. Yes, you see the matrix of the second partial derivative can be manually derived. So it would be here though. No, isn't it? Okay, let me refresh this a little bit. The grand matrix, yes. Yes, the gradient of the second term. Yes, if the gradient is singular, then do we not have a problem? Okay, I need to think about this bit as well. Because if we have a singular, And yeah, so we have this. This is the grand matrix, and then so we need the likelihood, or something like the square root of the likelihood. And if this is gonna be yeah. Wait, how do we know it's strictly invertible? Oh, because in this case we have a sigma square. Yeah, it's not very clear then. Okay. Hmm. Okay, it's not very clear. I need to think about this later. We have no, actually. No, actually. If okay, let me try to write something down. Because what I have is my square root of 2L plus. Oh, right. I have what do you call it? So let's say this one, right? So this would be my C and oh, so this actually won't be a problem. Oh shoot. This is cool. So when I have my constraint, it is gonna be like this. My parameter, right? It's gonna be yeah, and then plus n. Yeah, see? This is exactly what I have written here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see. The yeah, so you have this bit here. And then when you differentiate this, it's gonna plus an I, which is gonna make it oh no, I think yeah, so I think we're good. Ooh, this is cool. Then could this mean that oh shit. Okay, let me check if this is gonna might be onto something here. Okay, let's carry on. Last paper. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. But this is good. This is good. Empirical analysis of Hessian over parameterized. Okay, cool. We study the particularly in the context of deep learning, we empirically show that the spectrum of Hessian is composed from two parts, bulk near zero and outliers away from the bulk. We present numerical evidence and mathematical justifications for the following conjectures laid out by Sagun et al. Fixing data increasing increasing the number of parameters merely scales the bulk of the spectrum. Fixing dimensions and changing the data, once adding more clusters, less separable, affects the outliers. This is the key. We believe that our observation have striking implications for non-convex blah blah. The flatness of such landscapes, which can be measured by the singularity of the Hessian, implies that classical notions of basins of attraction may be quite misleading, and that the discussion well, let me just check what I understand by the basin, because my understanding of the basin is like literally saying that it is flat in many other directions. So it kind of just falls into it. Yeah. I'm not sure what these means because so what does it mean this is wrong? Doesn't feel really? Can we say that? Hey, what am I doing? Okay. Visualizing the basin of attraction. Good. Holy 66 pages. Okay. Show me a picture, please. What? Gradient norm? What? Okay, maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. Right, I think the rough idea is correct. The base, yeah. Okay, let's keep on going. Spectrum of the covariance matrix of the gradients of the model outputs. Mm. Mm. Singularity of the Hessian. That's interesting. Huh. Huh. Mm. Oh man, feels like there's a lot of traps in this doing this project because you need to be quite familiar with all these types of notions specific to neural networks. You know, when it comes to like over parameterization. Ay, 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 ay. Large eigenvalues of the Hessian can create the illusion of the existence of local minima, and GD can get stuck there. It further claims that the help of inherent noise in SGD may help get out of the obstacle. Huh, okay, I guess. Getting more and more uncomfortable and I really hate this. Mm. If you have eigenvalues that are different. But that means if something is okay. Hmm. What about we do like a Gibbs thing? Then we just uh um okay, I mean, now I need to think about more things. Hmm. Hmm. The decomposition of the Hessian as a sum of two matrices. Uh, where the first one is the sample covariance of the gradients of model outputs, and the second one is the Hessian of the function that describes the model outputs. What? gradients of the model outputs. Okay, I see. We argue that the second term can be ignored as the training progress, which leaves us with the covariance, which leads to degeneracy in the Hessian where there are more parameters and samples. Dependence of eigenvalues model data algorithm. We empirically examine the spectrum to account for intricate dependencies with the triangle. More complex data produce more outliers. Increasing network doesn't affect the density. Large batch methods produce the same number of outliers that are larger in magnitude. They are negative eigenvalues change. So it's technically, wow, so many things going on. I'm not sure how to move on actually. Is to evaluate the loss on a line that connects two solutions found by different methods. First of all, the notion of the basis can be missing given negative eigenvalues. Moreover, we claim that this idea of isolated basis may be mistaken based on the observed. In particular, show that two solutions with different qualities can be shown to be in the same basin even with a loss valuation on the connecting the two. I don't really. Two solutions with different qualities can be shown to be in the same basin even with a loss evaluation on a straight line connecting. Hmm. This is Gauss Newton, I guess. I don't understand. The, the, the number of non-trivial eigenvalues could be smaller than n. If one deals with classification where the data has k classes with relatively small deviation among each of them, it is reasonable to expect that there will be an order of k many non-trivial eigenvalues of the first term of the above decomposition. What? Why? Okay, I guess. I mean, just completely intuitively speaking, I suppose. Because then you're expected to have k kind of directions, and the rest is gonna be zero, I guess. Ay ay. But how do we do this? With a 100 dimensional input layer with two and a k dimensional output layer that is combined. We random sample from k Gaussian clusters in the input space and normalize the data globally. The number of large eigenvalues. The number of large eigenvalues are exactly matching the number of clusters in the data set. This is so sick. Number of parameters. So the larger, then there's gonna be more zero. Is that what it is? Hmm. Interesting. Hmm. Common learning rate. Oh. I guess. So this, yeah, this is saying because it's taking small batches and making local improvements, so you are more likely to make small adjustments, and then that will result in the difference of where you are in the final location, I guess. But this is again, this is in weight space, right? And and I guess they're saying that in the function space, it's gonna be more or less similar, just that you're in a basin here, trailing. Ah, yes. Ooh, wait, hold on. This thing, we are taking the second order. The matrix of the second can be, yeah, but we don't need to invert this, do we? Wait. Uh, because, huh. Hmm. Mm. So we do have quite a number of them actually. Percentage. Wait, percentage? What is? Oh, so 1%. No, wait, 0.01%. Wait, I don't understand. What is the x-axis? Oh, it's just the ranks. Or left page of the spectrum. I guess a small batch would be the order in percentages. Oh, okay. Ah, I see. It's a weird way to put it, I think, but okay. Yes. Continuous training in 2 phases. The jump. Hmm. Yes. Uh. Train. Uh. Train loss is a bit higher. Test loss is a bit higher. Train loss. Ah. Wow. This is some insight. So when we have a large batch size, we have smaller noise, but then when we switch to smaller batch size, we have larger noise, and then so the covariance, so the first time is gonna jump, uh, and then the training will have to adapt to that directions and causing it to go to somewhere else, but then eventually it going to the same level set, same base set. Wow, this is a lot of new information to consider. But okay, I mean, I don't have to be completely into this particular work, but it is gonna, I mean, I think I would have to find ways for, yeah, no, I think I can make it work. Okay, anyway, so if you have been, thanks for tuning in. So I've read two papers, mostly 2 to 3 papers about the singularities of the Hessian of a neural network. And there's a lot of caveats. It depends on too many things like the data, the architecture, and um and the training procedure. But basically the argument is that it seems like these are have these I mean the Hessian has the spectrum of the Hessian has this very unique properties that you have a lot of zeros and you have some strong large eigenvalues in the absolute value, and some of them are negative, so this means they are largely singular. And for me, what this means is that if this okay well but if this scale is difference is big enough, which here we can see that the large eigenvalues, if we have more classes, we expect larger the number of large eigenvalues, and also we expect that uh wait, hold on. We expect what do we expect? What do we expect? Yeah, we expect large batch to gives you higher eigenvalues. So maybe I can work on those two things and then check. Yeah, but the first thing I have to do is definitely to come to run a few examples and really understand what is going on in the Hessian spectrum, and probably reference this work a bunch of times and try to, because so far this is all in terms of trying to understand the thing itself. But I mean clearly the geometry of this surface is gonna tell us a lot about what we can do about it in terms of sampling, albeit I grant that sampling, doing full MCMC sampling on these things might not be the best idea, but hey, I mean, it's worth a shot, and to understand what we can actually do with it, and hopefully you can find something that works to my advantage, in the sense that, well, maybe what I did previously is applicable with some gains, but gotta try my very best to be objective and be completely scientific about it. And yeah, okay, cool. All right, wish me luck.